Ladies and gentlemen, please rise to your feet to honor our esteemed pastor. He is returning to us today here at Woke United Methodist after a vacation lasting several months. We bring you the great news that he is 100% healed. For the last few months, our Reverend has been battling through the traumatic swollen tongue from consuming too many tossed salads. He returns to Woke United Methodist today, preaching a message of hell, fire, and brimstone. Ladies and gentlemen, clap those hands against those bongos. Make some noise for our fearless leader, Reverend Jalen Rose. Oh, JJ Rose. Hey, it's me, Jalen. I inspire by epically failing. It has been quite a while since we have heard from our favorite Reverend. I have never dealt with the swollen tongue myself before, but I hear it is quite traumatic. Doctors at Woke Memorial Hospital, they put you on a liquid diet. For the last few months, JJ Rose, he has not been able to enjoy his favorite delicacy, the grilled woke wiener. Instead, he has been forced to obtain his woke nutrients by drinking glasses of Don's Special Lemonade. Recently, Don's lemonade has been so sour it's put hair on JJ's Rose. I am starting to think ESPN pays their talking heads to publicly embarrass themselves. I want to believe it's the money, because there is no way these people can be this stupid. I know Jalen Rose will never be mistaken for a Rhodes Scholar. I know he reads at a 4th grade level. I mean, this is the same dude who went on Celebrity Jeopardy to win money for his favorite charity, Dudes with Boobs. Jalen Rose, he answered so many questions wrong, they ended up sending him an invoice. But even I didn't want to believe the wilted rose can be this dumb. There is an old saying, it's better to stay silent and have people think you're stupid than open your facial orifice and remove all doubt. Yesterday, Jalen Rose, he removed all doubt. Yesterday, I share with you guys some recent comments made by Phil Jackson regarding the modern NBA. Phil Jackson admitted that he quit watching the NBA 3 years ago. Instead of LeBron James passing the ball to Anthony Davis, I saw equity pass the ball to mythical racism, who was then blocked by the evil white man. At one point, I thought I even saw a woman on the court, but my grandkids told me that was not a woman, it was just Bob Griner. Now, for us normal people, when we heard these comments from Phil Jackson, we took them at face value. Legendary coach, in my opinion, the best coach in the history of professional sports, explaining why he quit watching the NBA. Many of you guys can relate to Phil Jackson because you quit watching the NBA for the same reason. Now, if you were to deploy the services of the Woke Cat, which, by the way, I think I need to come up with a design and start selling these Woke Cats. If any of you guys are in that business, I guess it would be the clothing design business. I don't know, but if any of you guys are in that business, shoot me an email, btlkc84@gmail.com. Maybe we can work something out. But anyway, if you were to deploy the services of the Woke Cat, you would see these comments from Phil Jackson in a completely different light. Perhaps you would see them in color instead of being blinded by the white. According to Reverend Jalen Rose, these comments from Phil Jackson were a direct violation of the first woke commandment. Thou shalt not commit mythical racism. On the surface, this commandment, it seems easy to follow, but it's not. Deacons at Woke United Methodist, they constantly change the standards, and they implement this policy whenever it conveniently fits their narrative. For example, the Talbert Swan, he says he doesn't like white people. That is not a violation of the first woke commandment. Phil Jackson says he doesn't watch the woke NBA. Phil Jackson doesn't like black people. I bet he favors the white cows on his ranch over the black cows. Phil Jackson refuses to eat the meat from the black cow. Yesterday, JJ Rose got on Twitter to express his thoughts on Phil Jackson. Well, at least he pretended these were his thoughts. I have seen Jalen Rose on television for years. He does not seem capable of thinking for himself. If I had to guess, this script was written by some white birthing person at ESPN who goes to bed crying every night after battling through another day living with their white privilege. These thoughts from Jalen Rose, far from unique. I am sure everyone collecting woke welfare from ESPN thinks the same way. Watch for yourself.
You can't make this up. Hall of Fame coach and 11-time champion Phil Jackson claims to have stopped supporting the NBA because it became too political when it went into the bubble and was catering to certain audiences by putting slogans on the back of jerseys and Black Lives Matter on the floor. The same Phil Jackson that won championships with some of the greatest black athletes in the history of the game. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, made millions on their backs and off their sweat equity. You're sitting up watching a game with your grandkids and y'all think it's funny when justice passes the ball to equal opportunity? When somebody shows you who they are, believe them.
I happen to agree. You cannot make this up. I guess Jalen Rose is a regular viewer of this channel. I have been calling him the Reverend or the pastor of Woke United Methodist for 2 years now. He shows up on Twitter yesterday dressed like a pretend pastor. He even went the extra mile and put the rose on his jacket. I've got a great idea. Since my last name is Rose, let's put a rose on my jacket. That milkshake will definitely bring all the boys to my yard. This dude is such a clown. Only thing missing in that clip was the face paint. Did you catch the insinuation he was trying to make? He doesn't outright say it because he doesn't have the balls to say what he really wants to say, but the insinuation was there. Basically, Jalen Rose insinuates that Phil Jackson was the evil white master who made his living off the backs of legendary black players. Now, this serves a dual purpose. This tactic, it is taken straight from the woke Bible, Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. Jalen Rose discredited Phil Jackson professionally by denigrating his accomplishments, insinuating that it was not his brilliance or coaching or managing egos that won all those championships. All credit should be taken away from Phil Jackson and given to the players. Then he discredits him personally. He attacks his character by accusing him of mythical racism. Phil Jackson made millions off the backs of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. He made millions off their sweat equity while he sat in $1,000 suits and did nothing. How stupid can you be? You could actually flip the script here and make the same case. If you're looking through the prism of race, you could flip the narrative and say Kobe Bryant made millions off the mental equity of Phil Jackson. How many rings did Kobe win without Phil Jackson? How many rings did Michael Jordan win without Phil Jackson? How many rings did Scottie Pippen win once he left Chicago? During the last few years in Chicago, Scottie Pippen, he was bitter with the organization. Early 90s, before the NBA exploded in popularity and revenue, Scottie Pippen signed a 7-year contract. Scottie Pippen grew up poor. He was looking for financial security for his family, but the contract was way too long. It wasn't to his benefit. Guess who tried to convince him not to sign the contract? Phil Jackson. He knew Scottie Pippen would eventually be underpaid, which he was. He knew he wouldn't be happy with the deal, which he wasn't. Does that sound like a racist to you? It would not surprise me if we saw other talking heads at ESPN trying to discredit Phil Jackson by accusing him of mythical racism. For starters, race had absolutely nothing to do with what Phil Jackson said. He said he quit watching the NBA because it became too political. Translation: the league was infected with the woke fungus. Now, the reason it wouldn't shock me if others at ESPN tried to discredit Phil Jackson is because these comments could have a direct impact on ESPN. Phil Jackson has influence. They know what he said is how a lot of people feel about the NBA. For the last couple of years, the NBA, they have tried to distance themselves from the fungus. Hasn't worked, but they have at least half-assed tried. Phil Jackson brought up the same sentiments from 2020 that the NBA is trying to get away from. If people hear this and they are reminded of why they quit watching the NBA, who does that directly affect? ESPN. The NBA is the only thing keeping the network afloat. Without the NBA, ESPN likely ceases to exist. The success of ESPN tied directly to the success of the NBA. With the layoffs starting this week, perhaps Jalen Rose was trying to remain in ESPN's good graces. I know how to keep collecting woke welfare. I will come out publicly and accuse the greatest coach in the history of the NBA of mythical racism. When you think about it, it's not a bad strategy. Maybe Jalen Rose isn't as dumb as we thought. Executives at ESPN, they always achieve woke boner status when they hear the R words. Racism, and the personal favorite of many executives at ESPN, rectum. ESPN used to be the worldwide leader in sports. Now they are the worldwide leader in creating fake racism. Last month, Kendrick Perkins accused the NBA voters of favoring white players, even though many of the voters are black. A couple of days ago, Ryan Clark insinuated that Brady Quinn was guilty of mythical racism. Why? Because he criticized CJ Stroud. You see, white analysts criticizing black quarterback always qualifies. The entire website of Anscape, which is run by ESPN, is nothing but racial propaganda. The site used to be called The Undefeated. ESPN had to change the name because they are always defeated in public debates on the woke fungus. The reason there has been so much fake outrage surrounding these comments from Phil Jackson, they know he's right. They know he's telling the truth. Like I say all the time, truth is the ultimate kryptonite to the woke boner. Anytime someone tells the truth, they immediately move to discredit them. If I'm Adam Silver, I am doing everything I can to distance the NBA from ESPN. To his credit, Adam Silver has tried to keep the woke fungus off the court, away from the NBA. He has tried to change the perception of the league. The problem is, the NBA's biggest television partner refuses to let it go. To me, the NBA belongs on NBC. Now, I'm not saying NBC's not woke, but at least they know how to properly cover sports. NBA coverage on ESPN is garbage. It's embarrassing. Hell, half the time on NBA Today, Malika Andrews has them talking about the WNBA. Are you guys excited about the return of Bob Griner? No! But give me your thoughts. Jalen Rose accuses Phil Jackson of making millions off black players and violating the first woke commandment. Do you think Jalen Rose, do you think he will be included in these layoffs at ESPN? Now, me personally, I doubt it. Even though he provides absolutely no value, he checks far too many woke boxes. But you let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.